I'm sorry.
Here it is, April 9th, 9 o'clock, with Trinity Bay. We'll start this meeting, I believe, with a prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, is there any public comment? Lord?
Yes, I have signed up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President and Board. I'm Lori Romer. I'm the managing editor and publisher of the Seabreeze Beacon here in Winnie. I'm also a customer of the TBCD. I am asking this in public comment because I have to leave early because Commissioner's Court is happening at the same time.
I'm sorry about that.
Yes, so I have to leave early, so this is why I'm asking this in public comment. I have requested some freedom of information from the general manager, and I'm real confused, and I'm hoping y'all can help me out here. I don't know what your policy is. Honestly, I don't know if the board knows what the policy is, but I'm asking y'all, what is the policy as to how much money the general manager can spend without going to the board?
$75,000.
So
$75,000 is our purchasing policy.
Okay, purchasing policy. Okay, so again, does that refer to anything and everything?
Jesus, listen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So my follow-up to that is then, so does that mean anything that the general manager feels necessary to purchase under $75,000, the manager has the authority to do it without bringing it to the board?
That's the way it's written right now. Normally, Jerry does not do that.
Does not bring it to the board?
Well,
No, he brings it to the board.
He brings
rather than
it.
doing that on his own.
But I think it concerns board policy or something like that. If it's $10, we need to bring it.
Okay, so the policy, is there a policy? I guess that's my question.
Yes, ma'am, it is written down.
And that is $75,000? Okay, the follow to this question is, so whatever is under $75,000, does the general manager, can he enter into a contract or an agreement with another entity without board approval?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Okay, so the general manager says yes, but what does the board say?
I don't agree to that, but I'm
I don't agree.
Okay, anyway, and the
Like
rest.
I said, he brings most everything to us anyway. But
Okay,
he does have leeway to do things like that if he chooses to.
okay, so the clarification is, as the board policy stands right now, the general manager has the authority to enter into any contract or agreement with another entity as long as it's less than $75,000 without bringing it back for board approval.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Sorry about the Commissioner's Court thing.
Well, I'm leaving early, like I said, so.
If that's the only public comment we have, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. Item number 4 is approved minutes of regular meeting held March 13th and special meeting held March 21st. I'll need a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Motion has carried. Item number 5, approve financial reports. Ms. Sherry?
The monthly financial transactions for March 2019 for the general fund, the revenue realized is $1,016,383. The expenditures were $236,916. For 50% into the fiscal year, the revenue realized is 100.21% of the fiscal budget. We have expended 47.51% of the fiscal budget. For the water and sewer fund, the revenue realized is $320,414. The expenditures were $488,161. For 50% into the fiscal year, the revenue realized is 43.57% of the fiscal budget. We've expended 43.95% of the fiscal budget. Transfers from the general fund to water and sewer budgeted is $1,350,000. The transfers from the general fund to the water and sewer fund is $800,000.
Hey, can I ask a question? On the water and sewer expenditures, how can we spend 100 and change more than we made and still be in budget?
Because that's capital improvement. Mike will spend about $50,000–$60,000 on repairing the lift stations that we budgeted for. So that's the thing.
That was in our budget.
Huh?
That was in our budget
So
to
can you go
transfer.
back to that number?
What's that?
Yeah.
That's it right there, yes.
Our expenditure, 48,000, revenue, 320,000.
That's what I said, that the other is spending capital improvement projects.
Okay, but we're still 43.95 and 50%.
But it's already been moved in there, she was just telling you just a minute ago, that we moved $1,300,000 into capital improvements. So whenever she takes it out of capital improvements and out of that, that's the difference.
I have a question about over 100%, right? And it's not for any of y'all, it's just a comment. Over 100% of our taxes collected, I'm sure that's.
No, that's 100% of the, all the income from the general fund. That's including like the materials and reimbursements for doing these projects.
Okay.
That's in there also.
Well, I know one year we showed, 115% of our taxes collected, but the appraisal, the tax office had put the mineral in, so, that was
Right.
why we showed it over.
And we're probably gonna do the same thing this year.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. Okay, I need a motion.
Well, I wasn't to
Geez,
run.
I really mind.
All right, ma'am.
The cash balances for March were $7,611,002 for the cash and the CDs. The restricted is $2,335,599. The unrestricted is $5,275,403. Now for it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you want a motion?
It'd be good, Michael.
I make a motion to approve financial report.
Second.
All in favor? Motion has carried. Getting it. But next time.
Well, that's down for a large, keep going.
Oh, okay, somebody lost or something. All right. Okay, we're moving on to item number 6, approve tax reports number 819.
The Chambers County February 2019 collections were $870,901 with a current levy collection rate of 92.02%. February 2018, the collections were $272,955 with a collection rate of 90.11%. Jefferson County's February 2019 collection is $4,055 with a current levy collection rate of 100.37%. February 2018 collections were $19,667 with a collection rate of 90.52%.
There's your collection rate of 137. I'm sure they haven't put the minerals in yet. That's what happened last time. I'll make a motion to approve the tax report number 819.
Second.
All in favor? Motion has carried. Number 7, review and consider approving of accounts payable.
The unpaid accounts payable for the month is $221,358. The total accounts payable for the month is $309,277. The accounts receivable for the month, not including water and sewer bills, is $480,008.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
All in favor? Motion has carried. Item number 8, review and consider a memorandum of understanding with Chambers County on receiving Hurricane Harvey block grant funds to build a sewer plant in Hampton. Any discussion on that?
We advised the board after the last meeting that we would work with the county and the administrator to come up with a memorandum of understanding. Again, this is not a contract, this is just the outline of the terms that would be required in order to proceed with the contract, allowing the county to develop its grant and finalize its submission with the possible inclusion of the district's being the end user of that grant funds, and then the terms that would generally apply for the grant based upon information that the board heard at its last regular meeting, that depending on sizing of the plant, that it was possible that the grant would not cover full amount of a to-be-designed mechanical wastewater treatment plant, and would therefore require the district to make some additional contribution funds to the project. So we drafted a memorandum of understanding and reviewed comments, and I believe the board was emailed copies of that with the noted revisions, and I don't have particular objections. Of course, this is again the decision of the board to decide to pursue the participation in the grant program in this, or whatever the board decides that it needs as additional language in a memorandum of understanding. We're happy to address what is in this document as the board desires.
I have one question under paragraph C, Article 2 on the ownership. Why is it necessary for us to prepare a deed on land we already own?
It's for the improvements. Basically, I said we would prepare whatever we as the county concurrently agreed was the proper way to convey title. Normally in these grants at some point, in order to show the assumption of management and ownership responsibility, there is a conveyancing document. It could be in the form of a bill of sale, but that, as you know, is normally tied more to the conveyance of movable equipment. But we can, and we have done this in previous transactions, where we make sure that the facilities are understood to be owned by the district upon completion. In other words, there's a couple of things I think that are at play there. One, they're interested in just administering the grant, overseeing the grant, collaborating with us. If you choose to go forward and in the design and the construction, but this is effectively their project. They're contracting this under county bid specifications and so forth. And at the end of the day, that constructed plant will be deeded or handed over to you, and at that point, it becomes your facility entirely for maintenance and they will have no further obligation, capital costs, or operational costs at the point that it's deemed to be substantially complete, punch list done, and then you all will own that mechanical plant, whatever gallons, million gallons it ends up being.
They want to get rid of the liability and the maintenance of it.
I mean, during this, there's still going to be a contract that will talk about who is basically doing what to whom, but, you know, they're accessing, you're providing them with a site for the construction of this project. You know, effectively, counties aren't in the wastewater business, but they are in this grant procedure, the entity that can receive the grant and then turn around and use it for a beneficial public purpose, which the county grant administrator, county attorney will help flesh out even some more recitals about the construction of this for the necessary population that needs to be, you know, receive its services and other matters. So, you know, this is just an outline, but we do believe, and I didn't receive any comments from the county attorney or the grant administrator, otherwise, I think we all concur that at some point there needs to be a formal transfer of that facility from the county to the district. So that's why we do the conveyance submission.
Okay, on item,
90% of it.
no, about item number 6, about, it said here the district funds shall be escrowed.
I'm sorry.
On item number 6, or section 6, it said something about if the amount exceeds the county's grant, then the district would be responsible for escrow.
And we have no idea how much it's for.
Not yet, yeah, so what exactly can we just?
We haven't had a face-to-face with the county to talk about this, but we've done these projects before where parties were both kicking in money. So the entity that's at risk is the one who's signing the contract, and that's the county. So the county needs some assurances that there is a pot of money that meets the financial obligation that is being undertaken when they sign the contract with the contractor.
So does this mean that we have to put an escrow with the county?
We haven't determined that, but at the end of the day, what they will want to know is that these funds have been committed, in a lead-in Brett term, that these are no longer, these are no longer what we generally call rainy day funds or whatever, that we're committing these funds to this project, and that there are procedures by which those monies would be drawn. Now, whether we set those up with a separate escrow agent or someone else, that's still yet to be determined, and I look to our grant administrator and Scott to work on that so that everybody's collaboration are satisfied that whatever amount of money, if necessary, has been set aside. And that's why we also put in there, at some point, you're going to have the same bid, it's competitively bid, just like you all do. So there is going to be a finite number. But of course, it always could be subject to change order. That's why we put in there, even though it's your project, and you have the right to manage the project, you can't do a change order that would add to the cost line item in the project without the concurrence of Trinity Bank, because at that point, we're kind of assuming that it would be more than the grant amount. If it's less than the grant amount, then it's up to them not to exceed the grant amount. But if any change order would tilt this to a obligation to Trinity Bank greater than it had committed to, then that's got to receive the prior consent of this board.
I saw that written in there.
Yeah, if we don't do what they want us to do, they'll resort.
Back to your question.
That's your question.
Back to your question, Greg. If we upsize the plant to take care of the needs, we're gonna have more money in it than the county does.
Depending on the size of the plant, yes, you're exactly right. You could
Unless we stage it.
What is the amount of money we're gonna receive from the county when you after all the fees and everything?
I think it's a little over $2 million.
Yeah, that's
The
the
dollar amount was presented 2.38 or something like that.
Well,
Was presented in what we received, what information was indicated in the spreadsheet, y'all received last meeting. Relative, I mean, there were several different projects that were identified for possible use, but if the entire grant was allocated to this one, I believe it was 2.3.
It was after administrative costs and stuff.
okay, is that after administrative or before?
After the fees, how much money we're gonna get?
The grant amount was 2.7, and then after administrative fees, and then.
It was 2.3.
2.3, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Are you talking to me?
I'm actually looking at the PowerPoint, but they won't look at it.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I think
Both of them got their head down there.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna pull up the
Oh,
exact
Patrick's
amount.
here, I didn't see
Yeah,
him.
Patrick can tell me.
He was working on the problem.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, from last meeting.
So the bottom line is we'll have more money in the.
It depends if we don't stage it, you know, if we stage it, we won't. But if
Well-
we build the whole thing, we will.
And then also, while you're looking at that, what's the deadline? that we have to
2
do?
years,
2 or 3.
two left.
Start on one day.
It was a 4-year project, 2 years ago, so they told us last meeting.
So,
Go ahead, sir.
okay. Good morning, I'm Patrick, Wiltshire Public Management, the grant consultant for the county. So just to clarify some of the numbers here. It's a $2,701,783 is what the allocation is to the county for this. From that, we're gonna remove professional service fees, which will leave you a balance for construction of $2,368,000 approximately. And in terms of the contract timeframe, the county is very likely to receive a 2-year contract because that's what we've been told. Haven't heard otherwise. However, what I mentioned at the meeting last time was that we know that GLO is telling us that we essentially have 4 years to complete the project once we get a contract. So, you know, depending on, you know, permitting and delays and things like that, it's not out of the realm of possibility for an extension to be granted to the contract. But they're not going to tell us at this point in time if you're going to get it. It'll be a 2-year contract, and we'll have the option for 2 years.
We understand that, because we've got an extension on one of our business here.
Right.
Now, what day will it start, the contract?
I don't know. We've got to get the application submitted, and you know, they've got to review that. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to review that. You know, best estimates are, you know, late this year, this time next year, there'll be a contract in place.
It'll probably be later.
Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of ifs.
Sure. We're just on step 1.
If we get the money, there's a lot of ifs.
Well, it's, I mean, the money's allocated to the county, whether it's here or not, that will be discussed clearly today. But, you know, if that decision is made today, then it's full tilt to get the application submitted and reviewed. And we assume that that would occur, you know, throughout the remainder of this year. Contracts, hard to say whenever those would actually be executed.
Thank you, Pat. Is there any other questions? Now I need a motion.
No, wait a minute, we need to get some calls from Toby, we're waiting on calls from Toby. He was gonna put more numbers together.
The thing about it is, Deborah, there will be some left over for us to pay, but if we don't get this grant, it's gonna be a whole lot more.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with this. I mean, I'm 100% for it. What we're 100% is wondering though is how we're gonna pay for it. I mean, the difference is gonna be about $4 million is what I'm figuring. And then plus we've got the ground projects, these tanks, we've got all the other projects going on.
And you got
But
a
you're
good,
gonna run it up to about $6 or $7 million now before you have to pay for it. And then,
I don't think that high, but you got a good point, Jeff.
of course, I mean, you know, my question is where we gonna get the money?
Right, and
And how we gonna get the money?
that's been going through my mind too, and I've been thinking about staging it, I've been thinking about
You
what.
still got them on money.
But, well, if it's staged, then we don't have to come at all with all the money right now.
But how do
But
we?
regardless of what we do, we still gotta figure out how to
Right.
spend the money, because we're almost at maximum.
Yeah, how do we know how many we save? That's for sake. What if they fill all, what if we finish this in 1 year, they won't be saved? What if all contractors, they go build a plant for them
But that's a lot of what ifs, like you were talking about. We hadn't decided what we're gonna do yet.
Okay, but before we can make a motion, we have to have something firm we're gonna do. We can't just
I mean, I'm
do a motion on it.
But we're just making a motion to
To get started.
get started, basically.
Well-
The what ifs are possible.
That is the motion, am I correct?
Motion would be to approve a final of this, of the MOU, and get the county's concurrence, and I'm sure
Okay, is this the final motion?
No,
this is the motion to, how's it? This is the motion to basically approve the memorandum of understanding, which would allow the county to go in and file their application to allocate the funds to a Hampshire wastewater treatment plant.
Right, but my question, I can read that, my question is this the final motion?
I don't know what you mean by final motion. This is
me.
the MOU is only a beginning.
she's asking if we still have a way out, or
Uh,
if we can change, or.
Thank you,
Well,
yes.
the memorandum of understanding presupposes that you all have to come up with some more money. If you can't come up with some more money, you can't come up with some more money. I think in fairness to the county, which is trying to move this money to you all, that there should be sort of, the district should take the ball down and run with deciding, one, how large a plant you're gonna build, and then therefore what you're gonna do, and get that done while this application is all going. So in other words, we really are not waiting, we're not signing this and waiting a year. The district's under an obligation to work with the county, because this is just the MOU. The next phase, under this grant, will be executing a contract that will commit you to some funds. So there's a way out after today, but the problem is, you need to tell them if you all believe in good faith, you think you can.
I think a better thing
Yeah.
than worrying about a way out.
Well, let's hear from Toby, let's get
Yeah.
on and we'll figure
Get our
out.
figures from Toby, sit here today and try to figure out how the hell we're gonna do
That
this.
is the next one on the
I
agenda.
don't know why don't we hear from him now.
That's fine.
You would.
And then we'll vote on it all.
That's fine. Toby,
We
you,
must kind of get our feet on the ground here.
all right, we're trying to do that.
Sir,
Toby, I think y'all just talk about the big plan, because that's what we need.
sure.
Not necessarily, Jeffrey. If we feel like we can stage this and save some money and postpone it for 3 or 4 years and not spend all the money up front, that might be the right course for us.
Okay, you went down on my,
But we do have options.
you five all at once with your little.
It is cheaper because it'll cost us $700,000-800,000 more in the long run.
Every damn time.
What's the difference
I know.
For 5 million and 6 million?
It's not 5 million difference. That figure's right.
A bunch, let's go with a bunch.
Now, Buckshot, which one do you want?
Okay, excuse me, I didn't bring you water. Let me start off.
You need some water or something?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Toby, my one question that may cut this to the chase. Okay, on our big one, and we got a $5 million ticket down here.
That's one of the options.
Okay. Is this total, or is this more than what the county's giving us? Is
That's
it a
total.
7?
That's total.
So we take off the county money
And
from
before we
here?
start, let me go ahead, Patrick and I were just talking, the actual numbers, you look at a different number. You have 2.1 million, 2,134,400,
In county money,
this is county grant, 408,000 for construction.
2-1.
Okay, plus, including in that, you also have engineering administration. So when we compare my numbers, which are on that, that includes engineering. So the engineering part of that is 320,161. So you have a total, when we compare these numbers, what we're fixing to look at, the total you have for construction engineering is 2,454,569, so 2.45 million. So whatever number we're fixing to talk about, subtract 2.45 million off of it, and that's what you got to come up with. That make
I
sense?
mean, that
Is
is
this
just.
in here that I have up here?
That's one of them. Let's go back to, let me go back, and I want to just frame this a little bit. Let's go back to the one that has the flow projection at the top. So I'm going to kind of go back real quick, just go back over how we got here, and then we'll jump to the thing.
Yeah, this page.
Right, this page right
We
here.
know how to go here.
Yeah, I just want to, I won't dwell on it very long. So just going back to here, again, this looks, I think the last time we were here, we had, in the additional flows connection over on the right, we had that bigger subdivision coming in 3 years. We've broken it out, I think with some more information, maybe over a 9-year period. And what that shows you is in the far right column, it shows you the capacity we need on a treatment plant facility there to not have the TCQ telling you it's time to start plans for a new plant. So you see, we get to 0.3 maybe in 2024, we get to 0.44 in 2027. That's an important date, the reason I'm telling you that. And we get down to 0.5 at the end of a 20-year period. All right, so go ahead and go to the next one, Jerry. Okay, so this one, originally when I sent the stuff over to Jerry, what I sent were two options. One was a 0.3 now and a 0.3 later. Well, that later would have been in a few years, which is not a great idea. The next one I sent was a 0.6. Well, that 0.6, we're going to look at in a minute, is a large number. So Jerry had a really good idea and come back and said, well, let's look at the idea of keeping the wetlands, building the 0.3 MGD plant. Will give us a combination of 0.43 MGD, and it'll get us further down the road. Now, albeit if you look back at the population projections, maybe it'll only get you to 2027. But we don't know if those projections are correct. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe things don't happen quite as steep. So a 0.43 MGD plant might give you more than 6 or 7 years. It might give you 10 years. It'll give you a little bit of breathing room. So this option looks at a 0.3 MGD plant built and run in conjunction with your existing wetlands. We talked to TCQ. We can do that. We have a combined permit, run both of those plants. We had to add in here an elevated splitter box because you're going to have to bring it in and then divert it and control the diversion to the two plants. So that cost, including engineering, is about $3.2 million, 3.255. And if you want to go back and look at your chart, that buys you a little bit more time as far as maybe 2027, 2028. The next option, if you go to the next one, Jerry, is the 0.6. And we're going to learn how to do PowerPoint one day, so this is a little more fluid. But, so this option is, this is the full thing. This is a 0.6 MGD plant. Basically, it's going to be 8 units sitting out there. It's going to give us that 0.6 MGD. It's about 5.2 million, including engineering. So that gets you about, what, $2.8 million you have to come up with, or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
When you subtract out the 2.45. I think on the other one, you're looking at about, what, 8,000, give or take?
Yeah, 8 or 9, it's about quite a bit of difference.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking if it would be conservative to do this, even though in the long run, it will cost us more money to build the other part, but we may not have to build it for 7 or 8 years. So that this would take care of our current problem with the least amount of cash missing out of Trinity development.
The 0.3?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
that's what I was thinking. And that way we could save our money for other projects that we have down the road. Like some pipe bursting in Ocala. And some other things we can't get a grant for. And I just wanted to bring this out and reason this through. And I've been thinking about it, and that sounds reasonable to me. So,
Okay. I have some more.
yes, ma'am.
And I'll start it off with, I definitely want the plan to not be a negative. I'm done, my concern is paying for one, like I do all the time, I bitch. I met with, Jay Ashley, the developer at White's Park. Very nice man, very professional. Will it help us think through it? He suggested that we do an infrastructure fee on each lot of $1,000. If the buyer would pay Winnie, what, And that's all well and good, except when I talked to Jerry about it yesterday, he said, God doesn't like them. They're real legal. I said, well, they're doing it all over the west side. Ashley's done it in other subdivisions. His open request would be that it be done on all subdivisions, of course.
It has to be fair.
Fair. The other thing is, we have to have the plan before he sells lots, but there again, it would be some reimbursement for expansion again at some point. So I'm 100% self on doing it. My problem is figuring out how to do it. If we have to sell bonds and we have to increase rates, I do not think we can go to the people and ask for more money when we, as the five of us, have not done our job properly.
Well, in a way, I agree with you, because I don't want to borrow money either. That's why I thought
But
about
I
the plan.
think we are to blame for the problems we have, all five of us. I'm not throwing blame, I'm taking the fifth of it. But whatever happens at Trinity,
What we've done in the past has been good. It's nothing to be.
well, wait a minute. What we do at
Mr.
Trinity
Goodson, you were saying something? Mr. Goodson?
is our fault. Everything, no matter what happens, all the way down to the bottom, falls on us.
Yeah, we are responsible, that's what we're doing.
We are responsible to the taxpayers. It is our job to take hold and do it right.
And that's what we're trying to do here.
Now, what I'm looking at in our budget, in the water and sewer revenues, we have a capital improvement fee that we charge payers every month, $30. Is that what it is?
36.
$36 every month, every connection. That nets us 2 million, roughly $1,926,000 a year. So that's almost 2 million, I think. Now, it is a capital improvement fee. We are to have a plan for 5 years or 10 years, whatever we decide, as to what we're gonna do with that money. And that money is to be spent on capital improvement. But it goes in the budget. If we had been taking care of this one line item like we should have been, we would have plenty of money set back to do this with. And it's gonna be real hard for me to tell the taxpayer, well, we collect $36 a month from you for improvements, future capital improvements, but we didn't take care of that money properly, so now we need some more.
That's not true.
Well, it's true, Mike. You tell me what's wrong with that statement.
It's not that we misused the funds, we've been improving, we've been.
You don't designate them, you
We've always
do.
been over $1 million here in Winnie and stuff. We've done a lot of improvements.
Mike, you don't have that fund designated, you don't have a plan, you don't have.
No, we
And a
don't.
lot of that money you took from drainage, which is tax money.
We don't have it every
I'm taking, you don't need to be upset with me, I'm taking a fifth of the blame, just like you, we're wrong. We're wrong with a lot of things we do here.
Right.
This budget can be cut, it can be cut a lot. And when we cut the budget a lot, then we have money to do these things with without going back to bonds all the time. You cannot
Nobody's.
borrow yourself out of trouble.
We're not talking about bonds at this time.
Well, yes, you are, whether you want to face it or not.
Mr. Goodson?
Well, let me just say a couple of things as well relative to the financing. One, I don't object to impact fees. 395, the water code's been in there for 20 years. I would say we have had any number of clients look at it and decide that the administrative cost.
So you don't have a problem with the $1,000 a month?
I have, no, look,
Okay,
you don't get to decide on a number. The number is derived after an engineering study. You do a capital improvement program.
I understand all that, but approximately, I think.
I can't tell you what it would be because you go look,
Okay.
you go look at an impact fee.
Doesn't matter, whatever we collect is more than we would have had.
I think everybody here for the record needs to understand what 395 requires. You have to do a capital improvement program, and then you have to make land use assumptions for the area that the impact fee will be designed to do, whether it's residential lots, commercial, otherwise. And it's not all Mr. Active property. If you're doing this just for him, then I say this. It's not going to be, it's going to be it's going to be a larger area, and so the impact fee that he would pay is only a portion of what you're saying those capital improvements are, because you're not designing this capital improvement.
No,
So you have to understand Toby's job and their engineering firm had done these in the past. for CIPs is a larger project, and you come up with the land use assumptions. You go through several public hearings before you adopt an order, and then the impact fee is only in place for a certain period of time. Now, whether it's $500, $1,000, or $10,000, I don't know, because that's really derived from that. So what we found, sitting at the end of the table, is that board members in other districts, including one as large as Wilmington, said it's not worth it. It's the parameters of doing this, and in other words, you're not getting the money like a bond issue all at once. It's basically you're getting money as this property is developed. Yeah, so I want, again, I'm not saying to borrow money or not. That's the pleasure of the board, and the sizing of the plant is. But one other thing just to keep in mind relative to what Toby has said about point 4, basically, mechanical plan and the wetlands plan is that at least projection-wise, this could carry the additional population you may need for 5 to 7 years, maybe Toby, if we're lucky. Well, remember your 2012 refunding bonds pay off intact in your fiscal year 2025. You've got a year of the grant, you've got a year of design, so you're probably, and y'all tell me, didn't you see this would probably go into construction sometime in 2021 at the earliest?
Yeah, I mean, late 2020, 2021.
Mr. Goodson, you brought up.
So we're talking about 19, you're finishing the application, 20, you're finishing the financing or whatever, and you go into construction. Let's say like 2020, and then you've got, what, a year, 15 months of construction time?
A year.
So you're probably looking at 2022 before you go hot with an extended plan. I'm just saying, just a what if.
Yeah.
So at that point, then you have 4 years left of debt service payments.
That was.
So one of the reasons Mr. Gilly balanced this debt was to take into consideration no changes to try to quantify the revenue rates as closely as it could without significant increases. If you're taking off the 18, 19, 20, 21, and possibly into 2022, debt service payments are already committed for that, then it's going to make a material difference on what you have to look at for a rate increase, because once these numbers drop off, which were a substantially higher number, then you're looking then at 2027, not adding any new debt, you're going from about $1 million, about $900,000 a year down to $300,000 a year. So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not saying to borrow money, but I'm just saying when you think about this, you need to think about it in terms of when that debt would roll in to your rate structure. Because you're paying it out, not out of taxes, you're paying it out of water and sewer revenue. So all I'm saying is that, and again, I'm not saying it's the best plan to just do the 0.4. Certainly, the 0.6 resolves things for a long time, but if you look at the 0.4, at least on these numbers, it would appear that you have some flexibility with other financing tools. Maybe blending in a little debt with a little rainy day fund and not going 100% either way. It's just food for thought.
What is our total debt right now?
$950
A year.
900, 9.5 million.
No, our total debt,
Debt,
It's about 10 million.
about $10 million.
is that including our equipment, or is that just bonded indebtedness?
That's the series 2012 and 2014. After the,
Were we rolling together?
it was right at $10 million.
About 10 million. And then what are we on equipment?
I think the majority of our stuff is paid off, so I don't know
Right
the
now,
exact
no.
number, but we're down to like 5 pieces of equipment that we pay for. Everything else is
Jerry,
paid
do you know
off.
what it is?
Right on
No,
that.
not right offhand,
But our note dropped from like $400,000 a year to we're about $265 a year, so
I can
they're.
find it out.
And we're getting less of
Got to
that.
bring all that, and all.
That was my point a while ago, while we suggested planting, or building part of the plant, because in 6 years, our total debt would drop, our obligation would drop from $950,000 down to 400,000 a year. So we have room if we have to borrow money. That's the only way I can see that we cannot raise rates and pay for this.
Why don't we let Toby finish his thing?
He will. But I just wanted to make him point.
Money out.
It's what I'm after. It's not raising rates. It's
No,
all about.
why don't we let Toby finish his, see how much we got to fight, and then we'll fight this money out.
All right, just tell.
Well, I was basically done.
He was
Yeah.
through with us.
Thank you.
I didn't know, but I mean, on the larger plant, what is that gonna cost us? And on the smaller plant, what is that gonna cost us?
Well,
By the time we get to the 2 point.
The larger plan is the 5.25 million, I believe. Can you scroll down to Jerry, I think? Oh.
Yes.
I think I gotta back out and go to the.
Okay, so the small plant, keeping the wetlands in place is 3.25, and the other one, the 5.25 million, is that what it was? 5.25 is the bigger plant.
The difference is about $1.8 million.
Twice the size.
Right, now, if you, if you spend $3.2 million here, and then, buys you, and you leave the wetlands open, and buys you, 6, 7, 8 years, and then you have a lot of development come in, you got to put another 0.3, that 3 is gonna cost you a little over $3 million. So you add that to this, you're gonna spend 6.2, 6.3 million on a 0.6 when you phase it, rather than 5.2 million if you did today.
It's a gamble.
Yeah.
It is a
Well,
gamble.
you know, it's
Do
coming.
you recommend that for the growth rate and everything, we go with the large one or the small one? What is your recommendation?
I think it's not a bad idea to do this step approach now that the idea that the wetlands is in there. And here's why, because,
The wetlands, we're having to redo them constantly to stay there.
I'm sorry,
We're constantly spending money every day on wetlands to stay there.
but it still gives you capacity and it's still infrastructure. That if you
How
don't,
much are we spending a month just keeping them up?
and I don't know what you spend keeping it up, but if you don't have that in there, then the numbers are gonna drop, and then you're gonna hit that 0.3 really fast, and you're gonna get a letter from TCEQ to start planning.
Right. We have to keep in compliance.
Yeah.
Right now, let's assume we do the 6. We've rolled all the engineering in, we've rolled it all in there total. If we do the 3, okay, one thing, we go back 7 or 8 years and we do the 2nd, you got all the new engineering, all the new environmental, all the new stuff again, and stuff is duplicated.
Yeah, it costs you an extra
And we know, I mean, we have to work on crazy numbers because nothing's guaranteed around here. We know that that land of Cecil Parker's is being looked at as a subdivision, that's what, 700 or 800 acres?
900.
900.
900, so it's got-
That blows, yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee, but there's a very credible developer looking at it right now, so, go from there. But he blows that open, our 3 is a joke, even with wetlands.
And that's the gamble we're taking.
Exactly.
Right, because remember, these projections, the only little thing we took into account was normal growth in that subdivision area that we want.
That's right.
That doesn't include a truck stop, it doesn't include subdivision 2 years from now that comes across the river. Any of those happen, granted, by that point, maybe you got more tax base, whatever, but still, that's still another burden you're gonna have to deal with.
Right.
You got to know what the cost is gonna be on that burden 3 years from now.
We have to spend the money before the tax base comes.
Okay?
Did that confuse you?
So what, on the larger plant, what would it cost, without the county money, without the jail money, which would be $2,368,000, what would this district have to come up with to build a larger plant?
With the grant money?
Yeah.
Without
Without the grant money, deduct the grant money off and tell us what we have to come up
It's
with.
5.245 minus 2.45, so it's about 2.80.
Yeah.
That's the larger,
That's the larger plan.
that's a larger plant.
And that does not,
Plus
does not
wetlands.
keep the wetlands in service.
No, they'll be done. Wetlands.
The only thing I didn't have in this cost was to demolish the wetlands. I didn't have that in this cost, but we can add that if you wanted to.
That's the
Of course,
choice.
the drainage department should be able to do that.
Well, so,
That can be an option we have, but I don't see how we can financially afford it without having a bond.
let's go for that, the 2.8, and we always back down to the farm.
Hey,
We can still approve these 2 items and decide on that later, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's figure out how we
it's gonna stretch us
Now, the second question with the 5 of us is, do we want to make the motion for the small one or the large one?
Yeah.
Well, no, because we're entering into an MOU period, but.
Yeah, but I think for the benefit of the
I
county,
don't
to
know
carry
if
this
we have to
back,
decide on that.
they should
No,
have.
no, you're right, we don't have to decide on that.
I think this,
We need to think of that.
Mr. Jenkins,
And then
if
we
you say that
decide.
our plan would be to accept the grant and to look at building a larger plant, with us being obligated to finance it, at least then Scott could put that information in the grant, so, I mean, so right now, everybody knows, Patrick didn't know. I don't know that the GLO cares, but they want to complete a project. So I think at the end of the day, you're right, you would then be able to spend some time deciding, you take $2.8 million, you finance $2 million of it in a revised schedule, like Mr. Gilly said, several years from now, or do you take $800,000 or $900,000 and pay for it in cash, or you do a combination of it? That's what I'm saying.
So just
It's okay.
One other thing I would like, Dorothy had a good point and everything else, and I think we can, but we can't let our total debt get high and too high, that it tires our
Our
hands.
total debt right now is more than a year's budget.
Right, but we can't let it get even higher still, because it tires our hands too much.
It's out of control now.
Okay, we'll let Patrick address it.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
So that Patrick said we're all clear on this, is that,
Yeah.
and don't take this the wrong way. No one's gonna care how you guys come up with the money.
I know.
Right, okay, but I'm gonna have to take to the county a resolution that does specify a
Today.
very specific, not today, a very specific number. So you're gonna have to tell me eventually one of these plans, and that number has to be into the resolution
But you
before
don't
this
have to,
application
you
is
don't need
submitted.
it today. How long will you need?
When do you need that?
Today.
By the
Well, a
end of
couple
the month?
weeks, I need a couple weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks?
The MOU is gonna be fine how it is, because we've got that generally set up.
Do we need another meeting in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll set up another meeting then, there we can give you your answer.
Well, no, we give an answer, we're gonna take that money.
Don't you start from the.
Yeah, no, you'll take the money from the county, I just have to go back to the county, one of the last steps before I submit.
With a
the
plan.
application is Resolution, with that details, who's paying for the additional cost of whatever it is.
Exactly. I understand you, Mr. Patrick. Either Plan A or Plan B, one or the other. Right. With the cost. And TCQ have to approve that, and then we can move on from there. If I understand right.
I think that we can work that out down the road.
Yes, sir.
I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it.
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make
I
a
paid them all today, tell me it's your turn.
Yes, it is.
Well, going to number 8, then I'll make a motion that we consider a memorandum of understanding with Sanders County on receiving the Hurricane Harvey block grant fund to build our sewer plant. Great.
All in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Patrick and Toby. Appreciate it. Item number 9,
No,
or 8, yeah. So we're gonna,
you've already done that.
right, basically, so item number 10, we'll go review and consider accepting the lowest bid from Placo LDP to replace 2 water ground storage tanks at the Winnie water plant.
Do they have copy of the letter?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I didn't see one.
Should be in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not bring a copy, I thought maybe you had it in your agenda packet. Let me just take one.
I gave them a copy of the spreadsheet.
So we received bids, I guess last week, on the replacement of the 2 ground storage tanks at the Winnie water treatment plant. We had 4 bidders, Placo, MK, Alco, and WW Paving. Placo was the lowest at $453,000. This was to replace, your existing tanks are 214,000 gallon ground storage tanks. And this, once the water's treated water pumps pump these to the ground storage tanks. They're the short tanks out there. And you have high service pumps that pumps it into the elevated storage tank into the distribution system. So this product, and those are older tanks, been there for a long time. They were there when we designed the plant back almost 18 years ago. So this project will replace those 214,000 gallon tanks with 208 89,000 gallon tank, so we're gonna be 8 foot taller, so 1 more ring taller. And, I'll do one at a time, so that way it keeps the plant service, so we'll take anything out of service. So, we did have an alternate for some additional piping, maybe change up the way the plant, the tanks receive the piping, but after talking with staff, we decided not to award that. So, our recommendation, and Clayco is a good contractor, we've done a lot of work for them with them. I'm not sure if they've done any work for you guys in the past.
They just did the one in Smith Point, the booster
Oh, that's
station
right.
and the tank down
They
there.
did that. They're doing work for me and Anahuac right now, and so we've known those guys for many, many years. So we recommend that you award it to them in the amount of $453,925.
These are bolted tanks or welded tanks?
Bolted tanks.
Galvanized.
They're fusion bonded epoxy. We used to do galvanized tanks in the past, and now they take those plates and they put an epoxy on there and some kind of coating, and they come in and they feel slick. They feel like they're painted, but they're not. They're fusion bonded epoxy. And they're nice looking things. We've done many of them in the past several years.
I make the motion to accept the lowest bid from Clayco Limited to replace 2 groundwater storage tanks at the Winnie water plant.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried. I would like to say this is part of the list that Mike had given us on replacements and stuff. This is just the first step with those things. Have a lot more to do. That's stretched out.
No, that's not, he's done almost all the
A lot
lift
of,
stations, so that was on the
a lot
list.
of, right.
Haven't you finished on all the lift stations?
So,
The lift stations, haven't you?
he's done a lot.
We've got the majority of it done. We still
Yes,
got
see, that was on his list.
We're almost there.
And they have some tanks in Anyway, which we decided they're not as bad right now.
Well, we looked at putting a large tank in.
Right, we hadn't decided on that.
Yeah,
But that's in the future.
But it'll have to move to next year.
Right. Okay. Motion carried, reviewing, item number 11. Review and consider accepting a utility easement for Fairway Enterprises on 8th Street in Winnie. There's a plat in the pamphlet here, of what he's trying to do over there. Build the houses there.
I saw that. I'll make that motion for the utility easement from Caraway Enterprises on Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Victor's a nice guy.
He is very nice.
Item number 12, review and consider accepting a utility easement to Indian Trails on I-10 in Wallaceville from R.M. Wallace.
And Walden, Albers, and Christopher Williams.
Right.
Page Mike.
Several people, right?
Several others.
Yep, well, and all.
And I'll make that motion.
Now, wait a minute, are we paying for these lines? I mean, I noticed on some of the accounts receivable, the Jack McBride line going in and some other stuff.
The water line.
Are we paying for the water?
No, the people that want the water are paying for it.
They put money up there.
Mr. Wallace paid for this year. He's bought most of that property along there from Angel Brothers and different people. And Gulf States actually let us get in there right away, which is pretty unusual, but I finally worked a deal with them to put it in there.
So when we extend all these lines, we've been extending, the people are paying for them at the end.
Yes.
Because I noticed on the account, there was a Jack McBride extension and all that.
It's all added into it, Jeffrey. They paid us like $2 or $3 a foot to extend it down there.
I believe Miss Sherry sent out a list too of who owed what and everything.
Yes.
Like that.
Is that on lines too? Or is that just on water and sewer hookups?
That's on accounts receivable.
Yeah, but if they finance it, it's on there.
Right, and I appreciate that, thank you.
Is this gonna tie into the line you just bored on Interstate 10?
Yes, we came under Interstate 10 and we came up past the crawfish place to the next lot that he bought from Angel Brothers. So we've got 3 grinders on that side already. And I've been trying to find a way to get on down there because you got pipelines and highway right away and everything else. So this gets us to Indian Trails, and I still have another 500 feet to get from Indian Trails to California that I'm working on. And I just sent in a request to TxDOT to see if they'd let me get on the front side of that ditch because they pipelines in the bottom of the ditch, there's no place to put it other than on the front side. So I don't know if they will or not, but this is, as it's been since I've been here, we talked about getting
We
this
talked
done.
about this, we talked about going around Indian Trail.
Yes,
We've been trying to get that line in there for years.
So,
I second that motion.
Finally getting this done. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried.
but anyway, we're getting there. A little bit of change.
Little bit of
Yeah.
All right, we'll give a report on,
You want my curiosity, Kevin, so did you get my full debt? Is that what you want to get?
Yes,
Okay, what is it?
76,
Wait a minute, what?
$766,188, that's the principal.
Oh, the machinery.
Yes.
I know it's getting lower.
It's paying off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. Now, if there's no other discussion, we'll move on to the report on GLO project. Tom?
We did the final walkthrough last Wednesday on May Hall Lateral 1. Everybody was happy. I'm actually finishing up a couple of things around Malcolm Rollins back behind the school right now. And it will be hydro mulched starting next Tuesday, and that he's saying that's about a 3-day project. We're done.
Yeah, we'll start on May Hall.
We're going to start on May Hall tomorrow morning.
Okay, if we finish the lateral, that we come out of money.
We did not spend all the money that was in the grant, so Patrick agreed to move that money to the next grant. So we will still
Good,
get.
thank you.
And it will domino, the way I understand it. If they don't spend it on the next one, it'd move over to Smith's Point.
I'm just
So-
happy that we finished the project and we didn't have to add money to it.
Yes,
I'm happy,
exactly.
very happy.
Right.
Relieved is one of the word.
Anything else?
Thank you, Tom Bell.
Jerry, anything on the GLO
Keep it
project?
under budget and I'm happy.
Again,
Kicking guy.
the boxes have been out for bid and counties have approved them and everything to do on this. So we're waiting on materials, the boxes, the mats and everything else has all been done and finalized and should be on the way. They're building them right now. Same way with the Smith Point water line, they had to reject the bids and rebid it, come back and that pipe was low bidder. Actually even came back a little bit lower than the first time they bid it. There's about a mile of directional drilling through the water part of it. And there's a pre-bid on it next week and they should be back in a week and pick a contractor to do that part. So everything's been done on it, we're just waiting on pipe and materials.
Do you have a list of contractors you took bid from on the directional drilling?
Not yet, like I said, there's a pre-bid next week, and I'll have a list of everybody that bid on it.
But everybody is invited to bid on it.
Yes, they have what's called SimCast now, so whenever an engineering company like LJA does it, they put it up on a board, and everybody in the world can see it. So, and Gus Harris, which does a lot of our work, I called him personally and told him, look, it's gonna be up next week, but it's out everywhere. They put it in the paper, and they put it on SimCast, which is, people from California can bid on it if they want to. It's out there for everybody to see.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Drainage issues, Dan?
The 60-footer, we finished up removing debris off the oil skimmer. We removed the sandbar and road ditch by the airport. And we moved the little bar east of Jenkins Road, north of 65, and we had a dirt cut crossing in ditch 3-8, and now we're cutting a section of double bottom. The new FECON, we moved to ditch 3E. That's about a mile southeast of that Middleton Ranch House, including the intersection of Double Bottom. We made it to Double Bottom, we finished that one side, coming around working on the other side of that direction. FECON 30 is working on ditch 182. It's along Fair White Road, and we're cleaning the intersection of White's Mile. Highway 61. That machine's down right now, waiting on parts, we have that operator doing other stuff in the PLA jumping around. Cat 329, we finished up on Gall Road, except for this one spot, and I'll give you all that.
Yes.
Temporary, when you get back to that last 18
Right.
of that project. But, we changed out a pipe on ditch 8LA, and that's west of Plummer Road, and actually added some dirt to another crossing there when we came out. We changed the pipe out on ditch 3L, which is north of 1663, and then we cleaned from 1663 around 1410. And we also installed a drain pipe on right there for access to spray. The Long Reach 50, we worked on East Bay Bayou, south of 65, and we're cleaning to the east side of the bayou, to the gates. He's getting pretty close to the big gates down there. The D6 is on GLO project, the D3 is on the GLO project. The 308, we've been jumping it around. We used it to clean a section of ditch 1W, that's west of 562 and south of 2936. Just a small section, and then we removed some debris on some of the stuff that we cut on Crooked Bayou, a tributary coming to it also, and repaired a fence that debris tore in. The drainage crews are working on the pipes and shooting grade on these drop pipes and stuff we're working on. The spray crews are working on washed out pipes and drains. They expect to get started spraying next week.
Okay.
So we're starting a little earlier than we did last year, so next board meeting we'll have.
Well, the ground temperature's up, everything's working good. It's early spring.
That should be good.
He bid the chemical, and Yancey then got it over a little bit again. Also, the other Can-Am that we bought to spray with, there's been a little hold up because Pete's daddy died, you know. So he's building the other aluminum bed and getting it rigged out. So since Mr. Camilleri died, there's a little bit of delay on that. They're getting, Amos is after it.
Danny, back up there on your 308, we're about south of 2936, is that?
There was a little section there, it was George Turner's, there's a little section that's run up and spray, and it's just from the road to, it's got some pins there, it's a little short section, and you just took 308 and this small stuff, got service to get it back on spray.
I know where you're talking.
Right there by his house, just north of his house.
Pretty close to the pin, like you said.
That ditch goes on over to Batesville Road?
Almost. I think it plays out before you get to Bayshore. I haven't paid attention.
Okay.
It's supposed to be west 563, maybe. Yeah, that's what confused you.
Well, south of that, we had a problem with that ditch that drained that water off of Kinzer, where it goes underneath that canal. We used to have problems that anytime it rained, that ditch would back up. If we start doing it again, we're gonna have to get with the canal company and change that pipe out underneath that canal.
DCLC and D.
I'm sorry?
DCLC and D canal?
Yeah.
You've worked with them before, they've actually helped pay for part of the cost, so.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Anything else, Dan?
No, I'm good.
All right, utilities?
We had 8 pulls for non-pay this time, responded to one customer problem, had installed 7 new water taps and repaired 1 main leak. Responded to 63 grinder maintenance calls, installed 4 new grinders, and used 2 grinder pumps, or replaced 2 grinder pumps. Construction crew installed 2,120 feet of 3-inch pressure sewer for Wallsville Fire Department, also made a 150-foot bore, and installed 220 feet of sewer on 1663 for a new service.
David, why is there such a high volume of the grinder maintenance?
You know, Greg, I can't really answer that. I don't know, you know, grinder maintenance, the way I've got it listed here, covers a wide variety of things. It covers, you know, any calls that these people have with their grinder pump. It may be replacing the motor or the pump or
So we're talking about a broad heat.
yes, there's just, you know, there's so much to them things. There's no way, it's better just to put it all on one.
I don't think there's a way to solve it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got for people throwing towels and stuff in.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that mentality.
But they,
Well, I'm sorry, that.
And it's right for the grinder work.
What we try to do, if we can narrow it down in one neighborhood that has a couple of houses or 5 houses, we'll send them a letter asking them not to put these things in the pump and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The main thing is we try to keep up with the amount of pumps we use, and also on the capacitor stuff, we try to keep the capacitor in stock and shop around for comparison prices on what these things cost to keep a limit to it.
and I
But I
think,
think that's out of our control.
but I believe he told me too, if there's a high volume in the same place, you look at a different type grinder.
Right, we
To
the
eliminate the
last couple
problem.
of years, we changed up different type grind, different type cutters on them and stuff like that to try to keep the problem down. This works in some places. But you're always gonna have some, you know, some of these grinder calls will go on there, may go once or twice a month and have to look at each one, see what the problem is. Some of them we go to, it might be the first call we got in 5 years. You know, just all.
And some of them are just full of grease where people just absolutely pour grease
Just
down the
exactly,
sink.
yeah.
I mean, you can't stop that.
The issue with the multiple houses on one grinder, did you solve that little problem?
I asked about it, I hadn't really went into it, Greg, you know, I've been off for the last 3 weeks, but, I got several things, and that being one of them that I need to get back involved in. My report was pretty skimpy this time, so I want to hear what it's all about.
Really, truly, it's not too bad to have one house or 2 houses on one grinder if they're right there together. And the reason is they're built off of water usage. And the other thing is now I've got to maintain 2 grinders. It's kind of like there was a push for a long time that you have a water meter and then you had another meter there for sprinkler system to water the plants and stuff. So now I'm maintaining 2 meters rather than 1 meter. So a while back or so, what we would do, we take the lowest amount, say December, that they pay for sewer, and we just charge them that rate all year long. And now I've only got 1 meter there to maintain. So if I had 2 meters everywhere, instead of 5,000 meters, I have 10,000 meters in the ground after. So sometimes it's better to.
I understand that, Jerry, but what Dave and I are talking about, it's been a problematic
Yes.
grinder system ever since I can
This
remember.
guy's trying to make 3 on one grinder.
Did I?
You did too.
I don't know who you're talking
I'll inform you.
about. I mean, there's so
But
many.
we do charge for that if we
There's people you
find
can't
where they
educate.
put rags and stuff in there. What is the fee? $25, I think, for us to go out there and pull it clean out. So we're charging a fee.
These 1 meter you're pulling out, just out of curiosity, can they rebuild those?
You know, Jeffrey, there's a guy that called me, I guess a month and a half ago that was interested in buying them. And I was telling Jerry about it. I mean, I don't know if he's wanting to buy them or redo them. I don't know if we have enough out there to even do that. But yes, they need really to be done away with. They're not active anymore. They're real sub, and I just don't know if he's, you know, what he's gonna wanna get for us, he worked us dealing with.
I mean, I didn't know if they rebuilt them or not.
Yeah, some, you know, I can see doing it to the bigger meters, but not those small ones.
Know all the instruments in the flying machine, you can send them off and get them rebuilt.
Yeah.
We changed 46,000 in Beaumont, and we just hauled off dump truck loads and sold them for brass scrap, and it just wasn't worth rebuilding.
Cost, not cost. Anything else, guys?
And pipe bursting, the Texas Pride is in the area. They've been cleaning and TVing, getting to start. They've cleaned the line behind the bank, East Chambers Bank, and televised it. They just pipe bursted across 124, and there was actually a cast iron casing underneath there. so they made it about halfway, and they had to back out and put a splitter head on there that's used to made to cut cast iron. So they've got it across the road, and so they're on Mr. Way's property, doing his stuff right now, so they're here and they're moving.
When they burst that cast iron pipe, they replace it with poly
Yes, sir.
urethane pipe.
Yes, sir. That's the great thing about pipe bursting. You had a 6, you had to slip line it with a 4 or a 3, so you lost the capacity. With this technique, it busts the whole pipe out of the way. So if you, actually I think that's a 10 or a 12 there that comes in, and so you bust that out of the way, you pull the same size pipe back in there so you don't lose any capacity.
That's the way to go.
And it's all fused, so you don't have any joints to leak or anything.
Is that our own pipe bursting machine?
No, sir, we hired Texas Pride out of Houston to come in and do that. They
But
bid.
we do have a smaller machine.
We have a commercial drilling machine where we're pushing services and stuff across the roads to where we don't have to hire a contractor to come in and do it.
We're 6 inch, I believe.
We can do up to about, what, 80?
300 foot of 6 inch.
300 foot, 6 inch.
We do not want to get the pipe bursting.
No.
We used to do 3,000 feet a month, and it's pretty labor intensive and everything else. But yes, but they've been using the heck out of our directional drill machine, yes.
I noticed the line going down, Joe Wilson to the new house built that's way down there. Those people paid to have that line.
Yes, that was Brad Wilbur at the county over there, the county surveyor or whatever. Yes, he paid us to run water down to his house now.
So we've got water basically a third of the way down Joe Wilson Road.
Yes, sir.
So the guy that wants to buy the meters, are we gonna sell them to him and let him rebuild them?
I don't know, like I said, we need to give Mr. Goodson to see if there's anything to that on how they're to be done away with, or it's better just to scrap them.
Normally we sell them in the auction like we do with Renee Bates and just pallet them
Per
up
weight.
and sell them all at
They
one
could
time.
have over one auction or something.
What about the trucks? Don't we have a lot of trucks that we need to sell?
We have a few, actually, they're working on auction stuff right now. I want to say for some reason, the 8 sticks out in my mind, that trucks that we got there, I was gonna go and.
8.
8 trucks.
Why don't we trade them in when we buy new trucks?
We've been getting just as much money in auction as
Sometimes.
If they sit around here and depreciate because they're a year or 2 older, we
You
can
got
sell
the
them.
auction at the bottom, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on that.
Sometimes the truck do pretty good in the Renee Bates auctions.
Amos has been putting it together, taking pictures and filling out the
I
paperwork.
mean, Norman auction come by and get it running and
Yeah.
auction it out.
Are y'all gonna let Michael give a report?
Yes.
Or see y'all
Sure
feel
are.
it
Yeah. Hi.
Ready?
Mike, you there?
Yes, sir. We replaced a 12-inch water distribution meter at the West Water Treatment Plant. The meter's been giving us inaccurate readings for the past few months and was non-repairable. The replacement of this meter may also help us identify a water loss issue we've been having. The west side has had about 20 to 50% water loss intermittently for months. So we have been taking into account for the way that this meter's been reading, since it's been giving us inaccurate readings, by taking other meters in the plant and using that for our numbers, as I've been talking to Alex about. So now we've got this new meter in place last week, so hopefully it's gonna give us some more accurate readings, but we still don't believe that it's gonna make up that 20 or 50% loss. We think there's something in the distribution that somebody's actually pulling from us.
You told me that over here on this side, we're up to 95, 94.
We're at 5-7% loss over here, which is good in comparison.
Right.
We're over there, we're anywhere from 20 to 50% loss.
And that's revenues we're not getting.
That's correct.
Right.
Well, that's $3 a gallon, so the bill that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Right.
lost.
That's part of
It's
it.
not only lost revenue, but it's
Sure,
not
that's
gonna start
why
paying
people
for
out there cutting their meters all night.
I don't know.
Why couldn't you put a secondary meter in there to make sure that one backs up the other readings?
Well, what we do annually, we have a company that comes out and does a certification on those meters to check the accuracy. The TCEQ only allows us a 5% plus or minus. So we do get those checked each and every year, and that's how we caught this meter reading inaccurate. So that's the reason we replaced replace it. I did have them come out, take a look at it, see if we could make any repairs on it, but it was non-repairable.
I did suppose you did that, because like in oil field, they run a LACT unit that tests meters and stuff like that every month on the oil, so I figured you did something like that on the water.
Yes, sir, we did. We get them checked every year.
All right, and, the past year for the allocation of the money for the water tanks, what else do you have that is pending?
Is Mike going to get this pretty good with your report?
Yes.
I've got one more item here.
All right, so go ahead.
So the last thing that I have here, I just wanted the board to know that Joey Mouton passed his TCEQ A water exam this month. He's now an A water
I
operator.
think that is excellent.
It is.
He wasn't able to be here today. His wife is actually having surgery today, so he's gonna be at the next meeting.
Would you bring him up lunch or something?
I told you, Jerry, tell you to call up the lunch, so we do it.
He gets a pay raise as it is, so it's good.
But is that our first A operator license we've ever had?
First A water.
Yeah, and that's growing our own people.
That's what I like. I'm happy.
Right. Is there anything else that I was asking a while ago that's imminent danger, like these water tanks and stuff over here?
Nothing that I'm aware of, other than the west side, looking at those, changing those three up to one large one. Other than that, I'm not aware of anything at this time.
All right.
There is another round of Harvey money coming, so, and Anahuac side is, you could use that money on Anahuac side all the way down to Smithport. It's all considerable income down through there, so we could possibly, if there's money available, we might be able to change that tank with grant money.
But not the pipe bursting at Oak Island or anything?
Yes, you could.
It's possible?
It's possible. It just depends on how much money Chambers County gets and how much they want to let us
I
have.
still think you need to fight your water line anyway. So that is a hurry problem.
I think you're getting horrible water from Trinity River.
Yeah, they
We
did.
got better, we got LNG water, be better.
They don't consider that a low income area. That's the first project I gave
It's
them.
the whole district, there's some in there.
But somebody sitting in Austin doesn't see it doing the same as personally as you do. But that was the first project I gave them to look at whenever we were doing the water lines.
Maybe we can Austin and talk to him, Joe.
Yeah, but that's still a good project. Dorothy, that's still a good project.
We need it.
Still a good project.
We would probably be the only water district in Texas with two main sources of
Yeah,
water.
I know, that's nice.
That was your idea that day when you kicked the tires, Craig. Craig had a little tizzy fit in the parking lot at CLC. You got on that idea real quick.
You don't remember that little meeting we had?
I
We
do
had a
remember
third
that we
meeting.
did it at meeting. We had that.
Thank you for the report, Mike.
Yes, sir.
And,
And
the
we
only,
did.
yeah, excuse me.
And I remember the parking lot too.
The only other thing that I think we need to do is decide if we're gonna have another meeting for Patrick to give him.
And I'm gonna have an option actually.
Right, but when the date would it be the 24th or May the 1st?
He said 2 weeks, though.
2 weeks is
24.
24. Right, that's 2 weeks from now.
But that is Tuesday or Wednesday, let's go back to.
Wednesday, that's
Go back to Wednesday.
Do we have any reason to go into executive session?
I just have one, right, I just gonna look up down Robinson Lake. This is just in the reports, y'all asked us to continue to work
Yes,
with the people that's called the 1951 interest that own that part of the Brown Foundation property that's Robinson Lake, and redoing that road to get access to your structure. We traded some documents back and forth. Let me just tell you the three things that are, I told them that the board had given me instructions that we still have to work on. One, this project, Toby's not here, but their firm designed the project, and I said Trinity Bay wants to collaborate, but they want to be understood, the purchase of material and, we're an equipment and manpower provider. We're not providing the design, the specifications, or anything. So if it's constructed with Tom and David and Jerry, everybody's crew, as it's designed, we don't want to come back to somebody later on and say, oh, So basically, we're not on a warranty the project, so they can come in and test it, and core it, and anything else they want to do to make sure it's compacted,
That's
whatever they
our
want.
foundation.
So we basically said, we don't want responsibility for that. They didn't like my indemnity language on that. Told them we'd be happy to try to work with them. Secondly, and Mr. Shad and I have been talking about this, we want to make sure we know exactly what this project entails, because that permit, as you all know, in the design was done some time ago, and you all are much more familiar with me. That erosion has continued to happen out there, so we don't know if the quality of materials in their design specs are correct, and they even said, we would like to make sure that you all will fix it to the elevation and the compaction we need, even if it's more than the numbers in here, which for them, I think it was about $500,000 worth of.
But we're not buying the material.
No, but it will take more time and commitment, and so we just wanted to make sure we didn't overcommit. Tell you it's one thing and then it's half again or longer or whatever. So we're working on that. But the main thing, and I just want to make sure I didn't overstep my ground here for you all. One of the concerns that I've had is that you not be responsible for the future maintenance. There's some concern that work was done out there some years ago that didn't work. Well, I said Trinity mainly makes limited use of that roadway for purposes, and a lot of times they use waterborne methods to get to that structure if there's real heavy equipment coming in. So I said, we can't be responsible for the owner, the tenant, or their third party. I think the owner's use of this. So if we put this in 5 years from now, someone says, well, there's another erosion. I just said Trinity Bank wants to work with you to fix this, but they don't want to be responsible for misuse by third parties. And so that's the part we're kind of really trying to struggle with, because you don't have access to this except when you need it for light duty equipment. If you have to do anything heavy duty, you're going to have to get their permission to run down there. But that doesn't mean the other 300 some odd days a year when people are using that, or could be. And I just want to make sure that we didn't commit to a long-term maintenance obligation on that. We want to be good stewards of what we use it for, but not for the rest of the users who may not.
Yeah, that would drill the rest of the time.
Right. So that's kind of the last piece that's going to be the most difficult to draft, is what sort of future maintenance obligation Trinity Bay is willing to kick in.
That protects us. Right.
Just want to let y'all know, but it's moving ahead. We're making progress, and I think we'll get to a point where we can bring you a document that Mr. Chad and the staff can recommend.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Gibson?
No, sir. Just want to make sure you're aware.
Any other subject? If not, we need a motion for Alex, please.
24?
Yeah.
24th.
In your meeting, we need to figure out how we're going to pay for all this too.
That's what we're going to talk about.
All right.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that motion.
How you gonna vote?
All in favor? Motion is carried. But it's the 24th.
You screwed up last